Hi, and welcome to the Home Video Emporium. I'm your host, my name is Brendan, and with this series what I hope to accomplish is to catalog my entire collection of home video titles and determine which of these movies still belongs amongst my elite and esteemed collection and needs to be preserved for many years still to come, and which of these movies, unfortunately, may need to be purged so we can free up a little shelf space here. I have unfortunately run out of room on my video shelves and I'm still looking to add titles to the collection still. And I'm at that point where I kind of need to subtract before I can add. The goal for the series is to get rid of about 30 to 50 movies by the end. And if nothing else, this is a great time and excuse to watch movies I may not have seen in quite a while and hopefully enjoy them all with you. Today's episode is 1991's Barton Fink, written and directed by the Coen Brothers. We're giving them both credit, Joel and Ethan. The film stars John Turturro, John Goodman, Judy Davis, Michael Lerner, John Mahoney, Tony Shalhoub, and Steve Buscemi as Chet. This movie, I do remember that there is a Simpsons episode, I can't remember which one, I could only find the clip online, where some of Bart's friends are all excited to go to Barton Fink, and Bart can't go because Homer's picking him up. I can't remember what was going on in that episode. I guess wherever the Simpsons are streaming, I don't have it. Unfortunately, at the moment, they're on Hulu, but only the most recent seasons. I guess the joke was that kids Bart's age are not going to enjoy Barton Fink, apparently. But I do remember that from when I was younger. There also is a Simpsons episode called Bart the Fink, in which Bart, he tries to... He's able to open a checking account. For some reason, they just let Bart open his own checking account, and he tries to get Krusty the Clown's autograph by giving him a check. And when the check comes back, Krusty just stamped instead of signing it, and that inadvertently alerts the FBI that Krusty is a tax cheat. And Bart and Lisa need to help him out and get his career back on track. So that is the Simpsons, which helped kind of introduce me to Barton Fink. Again, as I mentioned, unfortunately, the Coen Brothers timeline for some of these early films, I don't exactly remember when I saw them and what order I saw them in. I know I would have seen at least Fargo and probably Lebowski, maybe not, before I had seen Barton Fink. It was one of the earlier ones. It definitely wasn't the first one I had seen. But yeah, I was familiar with, a little bit familiar with Turturro and John Goodman at the time, and this was a tape rental, maybe DVD. I don't think it was VHS. It could have been VHS, but maybe DVD. I just rented from the video store, and I loved how weird it was. Again, the Coen Brothers, they're able to just flip-flop genres just so easily, and they're also able to do multiple genres at the same time. This is a very kind of a stream of consciousness almost movie. It has a bit of a Kafka-esque kind of feel, where all the stuff is happening to Barton Fink. He's not really sure why. Is he the center of all this kind of malicious intent, or is it just this big world conspiracy that's happening to him? The film was set in 1941, where Barton Fink, who is a successful New York playwright who makes movies about the common man and wants to do the common man's theater, is shipped off to Hollywood to bring his Barton Fink feel to the Hollywood. And Fink himself is kind of an interesting character, where he's kind of he hangs out with a lot of the bourgeoisie New York City crowd, where you go to fancy restaurants, you wear tuxedos, but the art he wants to do is for the common man, to really raise their spirits. And I do wonder, I couldn't find any interviews with the Coens, if this was in some way, or at least the character of Barton Fink was influenced by Sullivan in Sullivan's Travel, the Preston Sturges movie, where he's predominantly a comedic movie director and writer who wants to adapt "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" in order to appeal to the common sensibilities of the common man, and to raise their spirits, much during in the exact same time period. Sullivan's Travel takes place the same time Barton Fink is supposed to take place. And the Coen Brothers are able to do what Sullivan couldn't. They eventually do make "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" And they do add the comedic elements to it, where Sullivan wanted to. So you definitely do get the impression that Joel and Ethan were very influenced by a lot of older movies. As I mentioned with Miller's Crossing, there was a lot of the Prohibition era gangster movie influence. As this, maybe even some of the Preston Sturges with a little bit more surrealism and a little bit more maybe horror influence as well. And it is a movie that the first time I saw it, even though not all of it kind of adds up, you still get it. You still get what they're saying. At the end where Barton Fink's on the beach at the end and the woman on the beach does the same pose as the postcard he's always looking at. It kind of just makes sense at the end where even though, not all the dots may connect, the picture still works regardless. And I think both Goodman and John Turturro are really at the top of their game here. They both give really incredible performances. It's actually Michael Lerner, I believe, that got the Oscar nomination, which I think is the first nomination for a Coen Brothers movie. Not that it's not well deserving, but I thought Goodman would have been the one to really get some of the ball rolling. I believe this is during Roseanne. I don't know if he was still seen as a comedic actor, comedic TV actor, and people couldn't take him seriously at the time. But I think now, if you watch it, outside of those contexts, it's a great performance. There's got a lot of pathos in his performance. You get a lot of the pain, the suffering that his character is always going through, as well as he's always trying to fake the happiness, fake the optimism. He's trying to lift up Barton Fink, and at the end, when he's revealed that he's not Charlie, he's Madman Munt, a lot of the again, the malice is there, the threat is there, and he's not real, and he can still have conversations with Barton where he's not screaming, he's not yelling, but just the menace of his character is so incredible that he really is a standout, I think, Goodman. But hold on. I think this really does also succeed as being a great ensemble piece. And a lot of these are, character actors in kind of a lot of smaller roles. They're doing different things, but these are not, big budget Hollywood actors. It's a lot of the, the smaller role actors who are given the big roles in this and are given the big opportunities, and they all shine. Turturro, Goodman, John Mahoney, and Michael Lerner doing that super fast dialogue and it comes so naturally off them. You don't think you're able to understand it. And it doesn't feel like any kind of more gimmicky character. They're both believable. They're both incredible. Steve Buscemi as Chet, wish he would have been in a little bit more. He's constantly around, even though he's really has that one big scene where he welcomes Barton to the hotel. The presence of him is constantly around. You see him peeking around corners. Turturro's always calling him to check on room service and to complain about Charlie making noise. Judy Davis, I think, is great. She does a lot of a little bit more of that kind of stylized, fast talking that you would see in movies of this time, like Meet John Doe, which we discussed earlier on the series. Barbara Stanwyck's performance in this, you can see a lot in Judy Davis with a lot of the quick wit and the sharp banter. And John Mahoney, he plays a famous novelist who is a bit of an alcoholic, run down, and there is that sad clown performance in his where he balances the comedic and the tragic, which the movie does as well. Again, I don't know is this a tragic comedy? Is it a dramedy? It's all of those things at once, and that's one of the reasons why. I think it does work. I mentioned if you watch some of the previous videos, I had mentioned that Barry Sonnenfeld, the cinematographer and director, directed those, and we talked a lot about the wide-angle lenses, especially in Raising Arizona, and the comedic, the crazy, just the crazy Roman cameras, all the really vivid and intense kind of camera push-ups. And this is the first movie they did with Roger Deakins. I believe this was a non-union movie, which is why they used Deakins, who was, I think this was his first American movie. I could be wrong, but he predominantly worked in England at that time. He did movies like Sid and Nancy. I think he did some documentary work as well, and they brought him over here to do this one. And you do get a lot in the hallways. You get some wide-angle lenses, some deep focus, very similar to like The Shining, where you have these characters looking down these deep hallway corridors of this hotel. And you do get some of the shallow stuff too, and the same hallway scenes where things are a lot more serious between Barton Fink and Charlie. You get a lot more shallow depth of field, so you're focusing a lot more on the characters. And some of the outside scenes where you're at Michael Lerner's palatial mansion, when you're outside in the pool, those are much more wider shots. You have a lot more light in those scenes, so you're able to get a lot more, really expansive, great depth of field in those shots. And you don't, there were some, I can't remember which ones, like I remember noticing it when I was watching. You do get some really good camera movements, some really good dollies in. It's definitely not the same as what Raising Arizona, but at the same time, this is a very different movie. So I think the camera work is very apt in this movie from Deakins. And again, this feels like a lot more narrow movie. I forgot to check out what the aspect ratio is, but it's not as wide as the other ones. Coen's don't have it. We've yet to do any like widescreen movies. Off the top of my head, I don't know if they ever do any, but this is a little bit more of a boxed format than the other two we talked about. There is an interview with Deakins. It's not on this. I don't know where it is. Maybe we'll talk about it later, where he talks about setting up the first shot in this, which is the big dolly movement. And Joel would walk by and he would kind of give directions. Deakins would set up for that. Then Ethan would walk by and he would give different directions, and Deakins would set up with that. And he talked about it. It happened several times where they would keep giving contrasting directions. And eventually, I guess Joel and Ethan got together and they were able to kind of get on the same board with Deakins. I don't know exactly where that interview is. Maybe it's on one of the special features on another Coen DVD. But when we get to that, I'll let you know. But they do have some interviews in this. John Turturro is interviewed. I think the interviews happened in 2007. Kino Lorber, the DVD distribution company, conducted those interviews. He mentioned that the fire scene at the end where the hotel is on fire, that was real. You know, there were no kind of plexiglass in between him and the fire. It was just, they just had him in like all flame retardant clothing. I think they sprayed some stuff on him. But, you know, that was it. You know, they guess they told him, you know, if you catch a fire, stop, drop, and roll. So he was really walking through all those flames, which must have been intense. He talked about the typewriter that he used, a really old-fashioned typewriter. And it took him a while to kind of get his hands to learn how to use it. And while he's typing, he said he was actually typing up what he thought the actual play was, or the actual screenplay was that Barton Fink was typing. So he had his own story of how the actual screenplay was that Barton Fink wrote. And he actually wrote it. He said he wrote a majority of it. They don't show it. They don't have any actual text or anything of what Turturro wrote. But apparently he actually was writing that whole time. And they interview Michael Lerner, who's smoking a gigantic cigar during the whole time. He compares himself to Edward G. Robinson. He says both like Edward G. Robinson, he can play, you know, the heavy gangsters, he can play politicians, he can do everything. So he's tooting his own horn there. He's talking about his tremendous acting abilities. He does mention that he thinks that with the Coen's talking about Hollywood, this is a much better movie than Hail Caesar, which came out later, which I completely agree with. I think Hail Caesar was a bit of a misfire for the Coens. The main people who defend it just say, oh, it's great because Ralph Fiennes is in it. You need more than Ralph Fiennes to make a great movie. But yeah, you also have some deleted scenes, more extended scenes than deleted scenes. Nothing too great. It's just a few extra seconds here or there in some of the scenes. So they're decent special features. Not the greatest, but you know, I like the interview with Turturro. I like the interview with Michael Lerner. So they're not features that I watch quite often, but they are good. And the Blu-ray here, I don't know again how long ago I got it. I think only a few years ago, 5 or 6 years. You know, I had, as I mentioned, I rented the movie. I think maybe several times, but I never got around to buying it till recently. I never owned this on VHS or DVD. I don't know. I finally just convinced myself that this is a great movie that I need to purchase. Which I eventually did, and I've watched this a handful of times. I don't watch it a lot, maybe once every other year or so is when I watch Barton Fink. So that'll wrap us up for this episode. Let me know, what do you think of Barton Fink? How does it compare with some of the Coen Brothers movies we've seen so far? And we'll talk a little bit more about how it compares about the Coen Brothers movies we've got in the future, as I've got quite a bit many, so we've got a lot of more work to get through to talk about all the Coen Brothers movies. So, until next time, be kind and rewind to each other. And remember, it's not a true home without home video. Thank you. Goodbye.